Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now Record Power have very kindly sent me through their small project turning set. This is a brand new set of tools they've brought to the market, and the main difference with these is that they have shorter handles so you can work on smaller projects with more control. Now along with this they've also released a brand new small project mandrel set which is ideal for the creation of pens and rings and things like that. Now I've had no experience at making pens and rings and things like that, or using smaller tools. So this is kind of going to be a learning experience for me, and a chance for those of you who have done these things before to have a good laugh. So first of all, let's have a look at the tools. I must admit, I do like the packaging that they've been using for a while now. Right, in this set we have, first of all, looks like a 1/2 inch round skew. This is a bit of wax over the top. Oh wow, that's sharp. Okay, we'll be very careful with that. We have their 16mm round tip carbide turning tool, again covered in plastic. Now we have seen this before because I do have the full length version of this. One thing to note at this point is that they all come with the Pro Comfort handles. And last in the kit is a 1/8 inch parting tool. Excellent. Right, they've all come pre-sharpened, which is excellent. They've all got a layer of oil on them, which we will clean off with a bit of WD-40. That's essential just to make sure that no moisture attacks the blades in transit or in storage. So I'll go and grab some wood. We'll get it on the lathe and give these a go. Okay, so we've got a piece of walnut on the lathe being held between centres. And now it's my full intention to have a go at making some pens first of all, and then after that we'll have a go at making a ring as well. So initially I've got 3 blanks here. I've got a piece of yew, a piece of laburnum, and a piece of walnut, and initially we're just going to turn these round using the 2 tools and then take it on from there. So I'm going to start off with the round carbide tool. Now ideally these tools are set up so the tip of the tool is on the halfway mark. Now when we're turning we can do it 2 ways. We can either keep it flat on the tool rest like that and slowly move it along to get this round, or if we want a slightly finer cut we can angle it to about 45 degrees and turn it that way as well. So we'll get this one round initially with the carbide tool, and then we'll put on another piece and use the skew. Okay, that's our first one nicely round. So we'll take this out. Okay, so the u's in place, and we're going to use the skew chisel for this one. Now I have a slightly different tool rest position for this. We want to raise it up so the leading edge is above halfway. This will help us stop any catches or anything like that. Now the idea with a skew is that we're trying to cut the wood about 1/3 of the way from the base. Okay, we're not trying to cut the wood up at the top here. We're going to be looking for shavings coming off about that point on the blade. Okay, now I generally struggle with a skew. That's not looking too bad. I think with another couple of passes that'll be quite acceptable, but for the moment, for a pen blank, that's going to be absolutely fine. We'll get the last piece on. Okay, last piece is on. This is a piece of laburnum. I'm going to use the skew again because I need the practice. I'll just drop the tool rest down. It should still be okay, and I've just moved it a little bit closer. See if that helps my technique at all. Okay, that was slightly better. That went a little bit smoother. Having the tool rest a little bit better, having the tool rest a little bit lower was certainly the way to go. Now the tool rest itself is just below the halfway point, and that just seems to be the sweet spot with this 1/2 inch skew. So we'll get this out, and then we can move on to the next stage. Okay, we're about ready to start preparing the pen blanks. Now I've put my Victory chuck on with the round nose jaws because this is going to hold the piece very, very securely while we drill it and cut it off. I've got two different types of pen blanks. I've got this one from Charmwood, which is the slimline pencil in black chrome. Accessories required. I think we've got most of those. And I've also got this one from Beaufort Ink. This is the Zephyr ballpoint pen, and it only has one barrel that we need to encase in wood, where this one has two. I've got 2 packs of these, one of these that we're going to do, so we'll get started. Now, the first wood I've chosen is a piece of laburnum, and I've looked it over carefully, and I think the nicest grain is on this end, so we need 2 sections of this for this pen, so this area here will be fine for that. So let's get this secured and make a start. Okay, nice and secured in there. Now I'm going to take the skew chisel and first of all and just square off this end. I'm going to use the leading edge, the furthest out point, and just slice through it down to the center. Okay, that's good. We've got a nice little dip there right in the center where our drill bit's going to go in. Okay, we're just about set up. We've got a 7mm brad point bit in the Jacob's chuck, and this is one of the barrels that will go inside the pen. There's 2 of these in this particular kit, and we're just going to be doing the drilling one at a time. So the first one's going to sit in there like that. So once it's drilled, we're going to need to part this off about there. Just double check that. I'm glad I did. It's a bit there. Okay, right, I'm going to drill out this hole. I'm going to go take it past where it needs to be, but that's okay because the next hole will need to cut ready for the next pen. Now, one thing I am going to do on these 2 blanks is just put an arrow on to show which end is which, because we would like the grain pattern from these 2 pieces to match up at the end, and if we can keep them in the same orientation, then it's going to help. Okay, so that's the first hole made. So I'm just going to double check my measurements, and I'm going to be parting this off with our 1/8 inch parting tool just above where this needs to be. Right, I'll move on to the second one. We've got this little nib sticking out now, so we need to flatten that off first with our skew, and then we can drill it for the barrel. Okay, now I just want to quickly prepare a second one, because I've got 2 of these, and I'll bring you back when these are all ready and we can start gluing them up. Okay, we've got all our pens all ready. Now the next job is to insert and glue these tubes inside. Now we're going to glue them in with super glue, but in order to get a good key, a good surface to stick to, we need to rough them up a little bit. Okay, that'll do. Okay, so we're going to stick these in with thick CA glue. I always generally use the O3A. It's easy to get hold of and it works very, very well. Now, the 2 blanks we've got with the arrows pointing towards each other, which is this one's and that one, I'm going to, when I stick these in, push it to this edge. I'm not going to try and get it up here. I'm just going to stop it when it's there. Okay, because when these set, they do need trimming back, and the further up we trim away from our matching grain, the less matched it's going to look. So we'll put some CA glue on here. I have put some gloves on, because I am renowned for making a complete mess when I'm doing things like this. Move it around, make sure it's nicely covered on inside. Pushing up, and that'll do. Okay, that's all them nicely sorted. We can spray a little bit of the hardener on just to accelerate the process of them drying. When they are dry, I'm just going to quickly mount them back into our jaws and just turn it back so the tip of the brass sleeve in the middle is showing like it is on the outside. Okay, so we'll just let these dry and then we'll come back and tidy them up when they're all sorted. Okay, these are all nice and dry. So as you can see, we've got the brass right to the edge there. We need to have it on the same on this side. So I'm just going to mount it back in my jaws. I'm just going to turn back that wood until that brass is on show. Okay, brush is nicely on show. It's not quite in the middle, but that doesn't really matter at this stage. Right, I can do the same to the rest. Okay, our pen blanks are all nicely set. They're all nicely trimmed at the end. So I guess it's time for me to step right out my comfort zone and make a pen. Now, the Mandrel that Record Power sent me looks quite interesting. I've never used one of these before. I have had a very good friend called John who's taught me through the pen manufacturing process, and he's given me some tips and ideas, so hopefully this isn't going to go too badly. I don't think it'll go well, but hopefully I'm just aiming for not too bad. Right, so in the box we've got a nice package, fairly standard container for tool accessories. In the box we have the mandrel itself. Got an Allen key to make sure I get the right end. Right, that's the drive end, and that's the live end because it spins. These are MT2 fittings, by the way, so which is pretty standard. Now, on this shaft, we've got these collets. I'm not going to fall off. No, you're not. Right, these are ring collets. I presume they're called, or bushes. These are for making rings, and if we have time, we are going to be having a go at making a ring as well. So 3 different sets of those for different size rings. And these little guys are bushes for holding the pen bits apart. Right, there's 1, 2, 3, there's 5 of them on there. Now that's got a flat spot there, so I presume this sits in the drive, and the grub screw screws down onto it. So let's have a go at this. So that screws down, and that will hold that in place and stops it twisting. We'll go in there. Right, I'll take off 3 of those. Which one should we do first? We'll do the walnut. So part 1, another bushing. Part 2, then another bushing. And I presume that sits on there, and when you bring up the tailstock, it will compress it all and hold them together. Right, let's get this out of the way, bring up the tailstock, and see if we can make a pen. So we brought up the tailstock, and that slots in there nicely. Now I'm just going to give it a little bit of a tighten. I'm not quite sure exactly how tight this needs to be. I guess it's until it stops spinning. What we don't want to happen is as soon as I touch the tool to it, just to grab it and stop it. Now, reading through the manual on this, it's got an anti-flex system in it, so when it is compressed, it's not going to start bending, which seems like a very good idea. Now, I've got those 2 lined up nicely, so hopefully all is well. I'm not going to over tighten it at the start. Well, when I mean over tighten it, I'm not going to tighten it too much because I don't know what the tolerances are, and I don't know how this is going to react when I touch a tool to it. So we'll leave it like that. Turn the lathe on. Let's fire this up. Okay, that's 1750 RPM. Looks okay, everything's nice and stable, everything's very well balanced. This mandrel was made in the UK, so it is going to be very well made, very well tooled. If one thing that Record Power can do is engineering. They've been going for well over 100 years, and they are really pretty good at this stuff. So right, let's get, what should we start off with? Let's just start off with a carbide. Now when I drilled the holes, I didn't quite get it through the center. I'll have to look into that issue a little bit later on. So let's get these round and then figure out what style of pen we're going to make. Okay, that was a slightly nerve-wracking but a reasonable start. Now I did get one moment which stopped it from spinning, so I'm just going to give it a little bit more of a tighten, lock it back off, so hopefully that'll be okay. So now I've arranged the camera, so hopefully we can all get a good enough close view. Let's start shaping this into a pen. Now, there are many different styles out there. A lot of people seem to like a very, very fat in the middle. I suppose the classic is ergonomic, but that's not really my thing. So let's thin these down a little bit. I like a slightly more bulbous end, so maybe we'll have, if this is the bottom of the pen or the bit closest to the nib, I want that slightly fatter there to hold with the fingers, and then slimming down over the rest. So let's give that a go. Right, I'm feeling slightly more confident now, so we're going to have a go with the skew. It's nerve-wracking, but it's a lot of fun. Right, so that's a gentle taper I've got on there. I've just started to round over that edge because it's got to meet a central ferrule, I guess you would call it. So that will just need to go over a little bit more. I might do that with sanding. So now I've got to match that width here and then end up a little bit wider at this end, I think. Okay, I'm slightly building in confidence with that skew. I did go a little bit narrower on there than I intended, so I've just tried to thin that off a little bit. I think it needs to go a little bit further, but then I think that's all right. I'm just going to take this top third of the bottom bit of the pen down a little bit, and then we'll sand. Okay, now I think I'm happy with that. Okay, so that skew has left quite a clean finish on there. So I'm going to start sanding, I think, at about 240, possibly go up to about 400, and then I'll put some abrasive paste on, and then we'll see how that looks. Okay, well, sanding pens is pretty easy. Right, just a bit of isopropyl alcohol just to take a look at the surface, make sure that we've got rid of the scratches, or the majority of them. It's not looking too bad. Right, so let's go on with... do we need a sealer? Right, let's just go straight on with an abrasive paste. Okay, so I'm going on with Northern Grit abrasive paste. I have put some protective goggles on because I don't want to get any of this grit in my eyes. And this will take our 400 grit finish up to well over 1,000. So we'll rub this in. Just a quick bit of isopropyl just to make sure there's no grit left on the surface. Now, in terms of finish, there's lots of different things we can use on pens. We can use any kind of waxes and oils that we've used on previous pieces. We can even use CA glue. CA glue will give us a nice high shine, but I have some of the experimental polishers left over, so I want to give another one of those a go. Okay, we're going to go with the triangle. This is a hard blend, 4:1 wax. Not quite sure exactly what that means, but we'll find out. Now, hard blend, that is hard. Let's get a fresh cloth. Just drop the fresh cloth. Okay, got a fresh cloth, so we'll rub it in. That's not too bad. Apply it to the surface. And then we'll polish it in. Okay. That is really beautiful. Silky smooth. Nice shine to it. Well, that was it, I think. All we need to do now is put it on the pen press and put it all together. That was an awful lot of fun. You would not believe how scared I've been of turning pens. How can you be scared of turning pens? The Mandrel was perfectly, I mean, that was absolutely rock solid. So let's get this off here, get the next one on, and have another go. Okay, same again. I'll use the round carbide this time, see how we get on with that. Okay, now the carbide is remarkably easy to control. That was an awful lot of fun using that. And the finish isn't that bad either. A lot of the final cuts I had the tool at a 45-degree angle, and that turns it into more of a shear scraper. And as you can see, that's not half bad. Right, let's get this sanded. I mean, in terms of design, until you actually get it fully built and start writing with it, you never quite know exactly how comfortable something's going to be to use. So this is very much experimental. So I'll get this sanded, we're going to finish on it, and see how it turns out. Okay, excellent. Bit of isopropyl. Got to love laburnum, haven't you? Right, let's try a sealer on this one first and then go on with an abrasive paste. Just a light coat of shellac sealer. Just give this a couple of seconds to dry, and then we'll go on with an abrasive paste. Okay, that's all dry. So as before, a little dollop of abrasive paste, and we'll rub this in with the machine spinning. It'll give us a nice, fine, refined surface. Safety glasses on. Quick wipe off with isopropyl, Make sure there's no grit left on there. Okay, now I think this one is going to be an ideal candidate for our shine juice, which is 1/3 isopropyl alcohol, 1/3 shellac, and 1/3 oil. We're going to apply this with the machine spinning. What we're going to do is just drop a few bits of this onto a cloth and then just hold it and rub it up and down the shaft. You can probably get the speed up a little bit. That's beautiful. Right, let's take this one off. Okay, now the last one we've got is slightly different. It needs a slightly larger bushing for it to work, but I bought these from Yandles and they kindly explained to me exactly what I needed to get this one to work, and were more than happy to sell me them as well. Right, so let's get this one tightened up. All the pen kits I bought, by the way, I did buy from Yandles in the UK. If you are in the UK and you need something like this, then give them a look because they have a marvellous range. I'll leave a link in the description as well. Right, with this one being a little bit smaller, I'm just going to move over to the smaller tool rest so I can get it in between nice and comfortably. There's only one part to this, so I don't know exactly what shape to do. I think just a gentle curve. I might put a bit of detail in there. I don't know yet. I'll see how it goes. Okay, did all those little coves with the carbide. I was expecting a slightly rougher finish, to be honest, but that's pretty good. Now, I don't know how this is going to feel when it's being held, but I certainly like the idea. So let's give this a little sand, exactly the same as the others. This was a nice idea, but it's really quite hard to sand with it being yew wood. It's not done too badly. It's giving a really kind of a subtle little ripple through there, along with the beautiful grain. I'm quite happy. I've no idea how these are going to look once they're all put together and built, but it's certainly been an awful lot of fun. Right, I think I'll go back on again with a sealer with this one. I'll let this dry, and then once again with the abrasive paste. Okay, that's pretty good as it is. It doesn't need an awful lot more of a finish, but let's try rubbing some Carnauba wax on. Once you put Carnauba wax on to the surface, then you've got to get this speed up quite high to create a lot of friction, and it melts it onto the wood and will hopefully give us a beautiful glossy finish. Awesome. Look at that. Right. Pens are done. They still need putting together, but they're all made. Let's have a go at making a ring. Okay, it's the next day. I'm going to make some rings. These are what I'm using. These are the Comfort ring cores from Rotor. Again, I got these from Yandles, and it's basically a small metal sleeve that the wood goes round, and the metal acts as a nice stabilizing core for it, and also make sure that there's no reaction between the finger and the wood itself. Not that there would be, but just in case. So the idea is that we turn a piece of wood, create a hole for these in a very similar way as we did for the pens, and glue it inside and then finish it off. Should be right. I don't know if I've got actually one big enough for my fingers, but I'm sure I'll find homes for these no matter what. Now the wood we're going to use, one thing I do love about this is I've managed to find offcuts from previous projects. This is some thuya that we turned week before last. This is some absolutely amazing burl London plain, which has the most amazing grain you will ever see, apart from the other amazing grains that we've turned as well. And this is some purple heart. So we'll make one ring from each of these pieces of wood and see how they turn out. Now again, like I've said before, this is the first time I've done anything like this, so processes, I've still got to refine them. I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm trying my best. Now initially I'm thinking I'm just going to turn these round just so I can hold them nice and easily in a set of jaws, and then we'll cut the hole, do a basic shaping on the outside, and fit the sleeve. Now thinking about processes, I have had a few thoughts on improved ways of making the pens, which I will discuss with you a little bit later on. Okay, now I was initially going to work these between centres, but then I suddenly thought to myself that, as with the pens, it's probably easier if I just hold it in a set of jaws and do it all in one go. So I'm going to get this round now with the round carbide, and then without having to change the jaws or anything like that, we can drill the hole and fit the ring sleeve. Okay, that's good enough for that. As you can see, the ring will sit in there quite comfortably, giving us plenty of room for error. Now the width on this ring, jeez. Now the width on this ring is 19 millimeters. So I'm going to find a bit that can take the majority of this out, and then we'll fine tune it with the skew. Now the Forstner bit I've got in here is 18.9 millimeters. The ring itself is just over 19 millimeters, so hopefully that's enough of a margin for it not to be sloppy inside. So we'll go in. We only need to go in a minimum of 6 millimeters. I'll go in a little bit further to give us a bit of room for error, and we'll see how it goes. Just turn down the speed a little bit. Right, that should do it. If I want to don't drop it again, see if this fits. That's actually not bad. Now I don't necessarily want to put a tool in there to open it any further, because it really is on the edge of being too loose. It's a firm fit at the moment, but I just want to remove a little bit of the wood in there, so I'll just go on with a bit of 240 sandpaper just to open up a small fraction, and then we can stick it in. Now, as before with the pen barrels, I'm just going to score the surface of this ring just to give the CA glue something to adhere to. Back on with the CA glue. Okay, now I've just had to persuade it to go a little bit further into that hole, which probably isn't ideal. I should have taken off a little bit more material, but we'll know for the next one. And now with the skew, I'm just going to trim off this outside edge, and then we'll part off the other side and work on the next one. Right, please excuse me if I do make mistakes. This is the first time I've ever made one. Mistakes are inevitable and fantastic ways to learn. Right, we'll just clean up this edge. Excellent. Right, I'll sand this up off camera so it's ready to go on the mandrel, and now we can work on the second one. Okay, I've got our 3 rings. Now we're going to do them one at a time, and I believe the way they are held on the lathe is with these like collets. I'm guessing that's the right name for them. So that one's on, the ring goes on after, and they're slightly angled at the side, and that sits on the rim, and I would imagine, yeah, that holds it nice and firmly in place. So you can bring up the tailstock as before, tighten it down, and that holds that nice and steady so we can turn it. That's easy. Right, I'm just going to put on the small tool rest. Okay, now I've got my cameras as close as I can get them, where hopefully they'll still be able to focus. So we'll do this first one. This is the purple heart, and see how we get on. Okay. Right, there's not an awful lot to do there, just put a gentle curve on it. Now purple heart gets its purple back when there's a bit of heat in there, so we're going to start sanding this up. I'll start at 320, I think. Okay, doesn't seem to be an awful lot of material there to be able to get an awful lot of heat into it to turn it more purple, but we'll put some abrasive paste on it. Get the speed up high. Okay, now I'll just put a bit of Caranuba wax on it. Okay, excellent. Well, that's the first one done. Let's have a go at another one. One thing I am slightly unsure of is there's some metal residue on the side where we've been sanding these wheels. You can see the black on there as well. There's a slightly smaller collet, which I'll have a go with that one for the next one. Right, excellent. Right, that slightly smaller collet takes it just below the actual, well, on the ring itself, so that seems like a better fit. Still, again, we're learning. Okay, round carbide this time. I think this is the London plane. Okay, using that slightly smaller collet has made that job an awful lot easier. Okay, back on sanding. Awesome. Right, straight on with the abrasive paste. Beautiful. I think we'll just go on again with the carnauba wax. Excellent. Right, last one is the Thoya. Okay, that was really quite an interesting experience. Right, I'm going to get all these cleaned up, get the workshop cleaned up. I'll build the pens and then we'll come back and have a good old chat about it. Okay, there we go. All the 3 pens are put together. Well, there's 2 pens and a pencil, but the process is pretty much the same. Okay, so let's have a quick discussion about these tools. First of all, the shorter handled tools were certainly easy to control. Once I'd got the hang of it, I was incredibly impressed with this skew. Now the skew is something I do use, but in fairly limited situations, so it's not something I've spent an awful lot of time using. I know I should do more skew work, but it's once you've had a few catches with it, you tend to start to get a little bit scared of it, which you know for a fact, as soon as you start practicing with it, you'll just get better and better. So it's something I do need to work on so I can get better and feel more confident. But by the end, when I was making the pens, I really felt a lot more in tune with it. The large heavy shaft on it certainly makes it easier to control, and it does feel incredibly robust. The round carbide, well, this has been a favourite of mine for quite a while, ever since it came out in fact. I had been looking for a reasonable set of carbide tools, and when Record Power brought these out, I was absolutely over the moon. The round carbide is incredibly easy to use. If used correctly, you can get a very good finish with it, and again, the thickness of the shaft does mean that it is incredibly easy to control, and the vibrations are certainly kept to an absolute minimum. So this for me is the one that's going to get the most use, I would imagine. The parting tool, like the round carbide, I have the full length versions of these, and they do exactly what they're supposed to. You can obviously use it as well on its side for detail work. It's not just purely for parting off. Having the shorter handle just means that it's going to be easier to control on smaller work. It's like the workhorse of the turning trade. It doesn't get an awful lot of the glory, but it's something that you're always better off having. Now the Mandrel is a completely new tool to me. I've seen them used a few times on YouTube and things like that, but I've never had one for myself, so I really wasn't quite sure exactly what to expect. A good friend of mine, John Blakenham, did give me an awful lot of guidance, and I did do a video call with him, and he talked me through a few things, and I am incredibly grateful for his support on this. Making pens was a tremendous amount of fun. I was very, very impressed how once I'd got the compression right to stop things spinning, how stable this was. It didn't move a bit once I'd got it set up. The quality of the finish and everything is exactly what you would expect from Record Power. Everything's tooled and made incredibly well. It's kind of seamless, in fact. And thanks to this piece of machinery, we've managed to make our first pens and first rings. Now, they look fine. There is a small problem which I will solve the next time I make pens. When I was connecting it together, one thing I didn't do, I'll look on this camera here, I'll show you on here, is that I didn't take into consideration the width of the end piece against the width of the end of the wood itself. I mean, it looks okay, it's finished beautifully, but if that had been a little bit narrower, then I think they would have looked just that little bit better. But again, this is why we practice, this is what we learn when we try things for the first time. The rings were great fun. I really enjoyed making these. I'll just try and get a close-up image on the camera here. It's a great way of using scraps, along with the pens as well. It's a fantastic way of using up those little bits of wood that we all like to save, thinking that we're going to use one day, and making things like pens and rings, and we can actually get to use them, validating our decision to keep hold of boxes and boxes of scrap wood. So I am going to be making some more of these. I think if I can get good enough, I'll start to sell them as well on the shop, and I think it's going to be a good way to allow people to be able to get hold of some of the wonderful pieces of wood that I managed to turn in an affordable way. So that gets us to the end of the video. I do apologise that it's been quite a long one, but there was an awful lot to get through. If you are interested in these tools, then I will put a link in the description where you can find out more about them. I'll also put a few links as well where you can get hold of the rings and the pens as well. If you have enjoyed it, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe and all the usual things, and if you could share it as well, then that would be absolutely amazing. Lastly, I would like to say a massive thank you to Kelvin, Joyce and John for supporting me through YouTube and through Buy Me a Coffee this week. Thank you very much indeed, guys. Your support is very, very much appreciated. If you would like to support the channel, then there's always going to be a link at the end and again in the description. But apart from that, thank you very much indeed, and I'll see you all next time. Thank you.